Hi there, team. We are going to talk about building your brand, the foundation, framing, and design. I want to get everybody kind of pumped up about this in the beginning. Branding is so important, and so we break it down into the agenda. We follow on to the beginning, which is the foundation, and then we talk about brand. We give the Wikipedia definition, but I want to be clear that when you start talking about the colors of Google, script of Disney, and bite of Apple, that's kind of like their buy in. Their brain starts to think about all the different things that they need to remember as far as brands that they know well. Today, branding also refers to being on the internet, and your brand is your storefront, but your storefront is now on the internet. And we have to be very different in this noisy world. Brand facts. The basic one that we need to think about is trying to be different from our competitors, create customer loyalty and trust, identify with a particular business, and talk about your story and promise, because it's more about story branding in this time. This leads us into talking about iconic brands that they know of. This does go from famous brands, then it fades in and out to the luxury brands, fades into sports brands. And so all of these convey a certain feeling, reason, or emotion. And famous brands, I point out how colorful they are, they stand out. Luxury brands look like luxury, they're very clean and but very artsy. And sports brands also show a lot of movement. Elemental branding, there are several different types of elemental branding. However, the key component is they are trying to create a particular desire using elemental branding. Harley Davidson is a look, it's an activity for the lifestyle. Vegas, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and that's an iconic brand symbol all through the city. Characters that make you happy, companies use those. And then, of course, color, blue box, something fabulous inside a blue box. Continuing with elemental branding, we want to make sure they're not afraid to tweak their brand throughout the years. As you can see, they've stayed pretty consistent with some of the scripting or styling, such as Apple. And this also gives a list of why people decide to update their brand. You don't have to throw everything out the window, but you can update it because it's a new trend. It's just like how design in a home, those trends, they try to stay current. And then you also have different audiences, especially like millennials. It's very streamlined. The story brand is definitely very streamlined logos as well. Here are some well-known real estate brands, and all of these logos have updated their design because they are trying to either bring in new real estate agents or appeal to the newer consumers in mind. Their story is the same, their principles are the same, but their design has changed. Here are some great importance of a brand. I like Gary Vee. He's very up to date on how to market today in today's world. He's kind of a master marketing person on LinkedIn. He always does video, tons of content that he breaks down in small pieces. And he says if the brand is marketed correctly, that the customers will come to you. And then we always talk about logos. Everybody thinks a brand is just creating this great artsy logo, but it doesn't convey everything about the brand. It does not tell the whole story. This is more about building a story brand. You want to choose to interact with your brand, your website, your blog, your email, Facebook, Twitter. All social media is important to interact with and create your audience, interact with your audience. And your platforms should all demonstrate a unique experience that your brand represents or offers. So in this presentation, we talk about the story brand, and these are all the different things that we're going to work on during class. And they have this in their workbook. Then I also do an example of some today's famous brands. You can see how many followers they have. This one is FabFitFun. They're an $85 million company. You have this box. It's a gift box that you interact with. You choose some of the items, and then some of them are surprise items. And it's a really neat lifestyle experience. And they show that and convey that across all their social media platforms. Of course, Instagram being one of their major ones. And I bought this for my daughters, and they love it. On this slide, we talk about Anthropologie. You can see we talk about the logo. It's very simple, just the letter A. I also give some information about what Anthropologie is trying to stand for and the influencers that they use to show off their brand. And they use those people. They're just everyday consumers, but usually the ones that have a lot of followers. But they're very approachable and authentic people, and the experience is like an adventure in Anthropologie. And they're very consistent with their platforms on social media, but they're also very consistent in their store with that same storyline. West Elm, the photos tell the story. It makes you feel like, oh, I can make my house look like this as a consumer, and I can buy the product, or I could buy the whole room right then and there. It's an opportunity to feel like you are the designer. A picture is worth 1,000 words is one of the little quotes that I use. Then we talk about branding goals and how that's our job to connect with people and interact with them. Seth Godin is somebody that I also watch this podcast, listen to podcasts and TED Talks and anything that he does on LinkedIn. He's a great marketing, kind of current economic sales guru as well. Then we go into a few brand stats just to get their mind stimulated on color and the consistency and what people are looking for, and the image of how they say it and what they say in their branding and how it needs to be consistent. The written word is just as important as the verbal word in branding today. We go into the framing, and this is where they get to be a little bit more hands-on during the classroom experience. And we go into the experience and all the different things, the voice, the passions, the connection, the aesthetics about the colors, and how you have to put that all the way across all platforms, and your values and emotions will trigger your audience when making the decision to choose one agent over another. So let's talk about values. This is just to get them to be thinking about themselves, what makes you happy, what makes you feel great about yourself, who inspires you the most, what causes you to strongly believe in or connect to something, what do the people do who really know you ask for help with, and so on. And if they want to take time even to answer those, I think that's a great idea. And then I have them circle the values. This is in their workbook. And talk about being authentic as well. Then we also go in and circle our emotions and how this will also keep some consistency when we build our brand story. Then we talk about building the bio. And so we're going to look at different bios. I've kind of pulled those from Facebook, and how the consistency is the key in putting it across all of your platforms. And this is a hands-on activity. and it's the most important part that they'll ever write about themselves. We go into one of my favorite branded companies, Blue Fuse Group, and I point out the logo, I point out the filters, I point out the little light bulbs. Everything that they put on their page has to do with their brand. And it's just a starting point. So we go into their bio, and it talks about the Blue Fuse Group Realty. I've highlighted some of the key points, and love that the Blue Fuse is the name and color that conveys their family values, and how they use their motto at the end: at Blue Fuse, we make real estate awesome for you. Isn't that a bright idea? Then I go on to Climb Realty, and this is where I talk about Christine Coe and how it shows pictures of her and what she does so that she can be relatable to other people in California and her area. This talks about her being in the Bay Area and Silicon Valley, what college she went into. That's a big deal, especially out there. And then also some of her awards. Christine Coe, this is just a really neat way to also put your bio together, or an add-on or something about yourself, and use it in a more lighthearted platform, not necessarily LinkedIn. Continuing with her company bio, I love that they have such a simple logo, and then they have their motto: it's more than a home, it's your life. This is the company she works for. And as you can see over to the right, just a neat kind of California vibe picture before we get into the company bio, which talks about how they make a great service experience, where they can talk face to face with their clients in different neighborhoods, because of course the traffic, I'm sure, is kind of a bear to get around to, and how they're recognized as the top 500 brokerages, and who else they're a part of, which is NRT. Pam Boronsky does a great job using her logo and also her D magazine, Bestie magazine, but she also goes into her bio, and this bio is very similar to what we're going to be writing in class. So then we go into what a real estate bio is, needs to be included in those. And as you can see, we talk about the template that sparks interest, and then we go into the 4 different pieces of the bio. I go into each one and I talk about all of the different things that need to go in there to open with your real estate info, talk about your connection to the neighborhood, your expertise, and how to go ahead and close with your personal information, possibly pictures, and that it's so important that they have their information at the end of the bio as well. And then so what we're going to do after this is we're going to stop and we're going to write the bio. We're going to take about 10 minutes. It's in the book, and they can just free write all of that in there so that they have it to go in all the different platforms. I'm going to stop right here, and then I'm going to create another recording.